Good morning. Over the weekend, I got a message from somebody who said they were a quiet listener to the latest episode of the podcast on relationships, where I'm going super raw on some of my past in relationships. And I'm not getting into any details. I'm not exposing anybody except myself. but um, but the reason I bring that up is this person reached out and they were like, "Hey, this. I want to let you know that that's not." Essentially, what I read was it's not in vain. That's something that resonated with me when you shared that, and I appreciate you doing that. Um, and for all intents and purposes, it's helpful. And I'm thinking to myself, man, it's so funny because the enemy wanted me to keep my mouth shut on like so much of my life. I remember years ago, um, I was in New York, and I was just in this time in my life where I was spending time reading my Bible and trying to figure out what the heck was going on inside. And God was really doing like this super deep healing in me as I was on my journey to becoming whole again. And that's spirit, soul, and body. And I remember one day I was starting to hear God's voice more clearly, especially as I was reading my Bible. And I remember one day he spoke to me and he was just like, "I want you to talk about adoption." It's like, man, that sounds so uncomfortable. And up until that point in my life, that was something I really held close to my chest. It was like I took pride in the fact that only a handful of people knew I was adopted or this or that, and that you had to earn my trust. And it was such a pride thing. And I didn't understand it at the time. Like, what, God, why would you want me to talk about adoption? It's something so personal to me. And and then, of course, I didn't have the concept of, well, there's a timing for everything. And it wasn't like you wanted me to stand up on the street corner and start talking about adoption right then and there. So if you're new to hearing God's voice, that's something to take away, is that sometimes there's a timing piece between when he says something and when it actually starts to happen. And for me, what that was a little seed. He planted a seed and he was just like, TJ, I have so much in your story. God saying, like, I am present in all of your story, and I want you to share that with everybody. And that includes kind of the more challenging things for you. And one of the things that I was talking about in this latest episode was me just getting real about my past and romantic relationships. And that was challenging for me to get real about, because it's hard when you realize you've hurt people intentionally, unintentionally. In my case, I would say often just totally unintentional. But the way that I'll describe this for people is that, and I say for people, for maybe it's men, maybe it's women, but I'll speak to men, you specifically right now, is this can be a massive blind spot, especially if you've lived your life like not really thinking twice about how you treat women. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're a good person, if you have good intentions, you understand the value of respecting somebody and wanting to see the best in people and bring out the best in people. It can be a real big blind spot when it comes to romantic relationships, because you can easily just say, well, I'm not like that. Or in the comparison game, well, I didn't, I wasn't with as many women as that guy was, so therefore, or you can easily just kind of count yourself out of being in the wrong just because you weren't as far in the wrong as somebody else, as one example. And that's a big blind spot, and it can be really damaging to not see it for yourself. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I'd say go check it out. It's on my site if you like absolutely don't know where to find it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But Mindset with TJ Loeffler, season 11 is out on the podcast, and the first 4 episodes are now up for you to listen to. But that one on relationships, I think, will really resonate with you if you're in that place where you're just trying to get real, going, man, I've had patterns in my relationships. Something's missing. And even if you're married, even if you've kind of moved on to the next phase of relationships, I think it'll really help you if you're trying to navigate some of this stuff, which, by the way, we all are. trying to navigate some of the stuff to set the best foundation, or kind of fix the foundation if you need to, for the best relationships you can have. I believe relationships are a massive key to living a fulfilling life. That's why I talk about it. It's key to being healthy. It's something that I've done extremely well and extremely poorly. So if you can learn something, great. And, there's a lot more that I could say, but I'll leave it there. If you want to dig into relationships even more, though, on the podcast, season 4 would be where to go to. So season 11, new episode out. Season 4, plenty more on relationships, how God can heal you, transform your relationships, signs of unhealthy relationships, signs of healthy relationships, all of that. And I could go in the weeds on all the things not to do, but hopefully there's a lesson in there for you. And I appreciate you guys listening. So thanks so much for the messages. And when you do listen, if something resonates, I'd love to hear from you.